and a good afternoon to you. I'm Huey Poplock. This is the Central Florida Computer Society Windows Special Interest Group, or as I call it, the WinSIG. It's Sunday, May 10th, 2020, and a happy Mother's Day to all of you. I'm glad you were able to attend. This is a monthly meeting of the WinSIG. Previous meetings are posted, and the recordings are on YouTube, but they're also you can see them through the huey.net/WinSIG website. And so let's get started. I am going to minimize this. I'm going to start with a, let's see, I want to click this. Probably should have had this running. And while we're doing that, I've got to go back and, come on. I need to share the down because I'm going to do a video. Okay, and today I'm going to start out by talking about Windows 10. Need to do something here. Windows 10 is coming. The 2004 or 2004 as it's called is coming May 28th. And so I put together, instead of trying to demonstrate, because I can't, because I don't have the update yet, I wanted to tell you a little bit about what's coming in it. So to start out with, I'm going to start with a video. So let's go ahead and play the video.
Hi everybody, talking today about what you can expect from Windows 10 version 2004. Ed Bott's here with us to talk about it a little bit. And Ed, and it just seems odd to be saying 2004 considering that was years ago. It seems like we should have something a little more updated in terms of the name.
Yeah, you know, we saw this one coming a year or two ago when Microsoft started its new naming convention for these Windows 10 feature updates. They do a 4-digit number for them, and the first 2 digits are the year, and the second 2 digits are the month. So 2004 is 2020, the 4th month, and that's April. But you're right, it's confusing, and I think it's going to be even more confusing when we get to fall. This year, and we have either 2009 or 2010, whichever one they decide to do there. We're going to feel like we're still back in the last century. But this is the latest feature update. It's coming in the next, coming soon. It's an optional update for anyone who's installed either of the 2019 feature updates already. So whereas in the past, Microsoft pushed these out there and they installed themselves automatically on your PC, ready or not, these ones are going to show up as an optional update. The interesting thing about version 2004 is that it's been in preview for a very long time. It's been, the Windows insiders have been working with it for almost a year now. And it's been basically finished for several months as they get ready for the final release. I think some of that just has to do with quality control. They had a really awkward, bad, buggy release back at the end of 2018, and so it seems like they're bending over backwards to make sure that this one goes smoothly. There's a lot of new features in this. Nothing earth-shattering, nothing here that's going to make people say, "Who moved my cheese?" And in fact, some of the features are already in the new build. There's things that are delivered through apps, like the brand new calculator app, and some changes to the way that search works in File Explorer. Those things are already there. But today, I think what we're going to talk about is some of the new features that will be there when people install this new update.
Yeah, and one group, Ed, of course, that we'll see some changes, and this will impact will be administrators. So talk a little bit about, because I know you mentioned it in your article, what this will mean for them.
Yeah, sure. There's a couple of really important changes here that administrators will find useful for their users. The first is that you can sign in. If you sign into your Windows 10 PC with a Microsoft account, you can set it up to go completely passwordless. Now you have to have Windows Hello enabled on that, which means you either need biometric authentication or a PIN setup. But this option just removes the necessity for you to type in a password. And paradoxically, that adds security to the system because it's impossible to steal a local PIN. There's also the option to use that PIN in safe mode. You know, when you start up, when you're an administrator, you're troubleshooting a PC, you're trying to figure out what's wrong with it, and you start in safe mode, you have to sign in with the password of an administrator account now. Well, this version will allow you to configure Windows such that you can sign into safe mode, and when you do that, you can just use your administrator's PIN to sign in. So that makes it a little easier for troubleshooting purposes. And finally, there's a really interesting option that's an extension of something that's been there since the very earliest days of Windows 10. And that's in the option to reset a PC instead of using the files that are already on the PC, which might be corrupted or there might be another sort of problem with them. Beginning with this version, you'll have the option to download those reset files directly from the cloud, from Microsoft. And so that's something that people have been asking for a while. It's something that Mac users are familiar with, but that's going to be new in this release.
Excellent. And another, big group, Ed, that you talk about, the developers will be especially interested too to see what's in it for them.
Right. So there's two fairly major changes in this version that will be of big interest to developers and people who are testing software. First of those is Windows Subsystem for Linux version 2. And this one, we don't have enough time to go into all the detail about it here, but this is a major update to the system, to the subsystem that allows developers to run a full instance of the Linux kernel directly on their PC, do all the things that you would normally have to do on a Linux PC, but right there inside your Windows PC. A lot of performance improvements, a lot of reliability improvements in here, a lot of things that developers have been asking for. And it's really odd to think that one of the biggest sets of changes in a new version of Windows is all about Linux, but here we are in 2020. And the second one is a feature that was introduced at the end of 2019 called Windows Sandbox. And that's something that allows you to create an instant virtual machine for testing a new program without having to go through the whole Hyper-V subsystem. And what this allows an administrator developer on the machine to do is to create a configuration file so that Windows Sandbox works the way they expect it to. Right now, if you just use the feature out of the box, you get sort of a generic Windows Sandbox. And this feature, which takes a little tweaking, but it allows a developer to configure that sandbox to work the way they want it to.
Excellent. All right, Ed. And finally, though, for those that aren't administrators, developers, just everybody else, what does it mean for all of those people, the majority, I guess?
Yeah, I think that's the vast majority of people, to be honest. And I think the good news here is that most of the changes are fairly subtle. There are some welcome ones. I think that things that people will look forward to. For example, in Performance tab, on the disk drives, you can see the type of disk that you're working with. So that might be a solid state drive or it might be a USB drive. You'll be able to see that directly in Task Manager. If you have a graphics processing unit, a GPU, you'll be able to look at the temperature of that GPU. And that's something that gamers will especially appreciate, or anybody who does like really demanding tasks with their PC. Typically, you've had to install a separate utility to see the temperature of the GPU and see if you're overdriving your system. That will be right there in the Task Manager. There's changes in the Settings app. Microsoft has been steadily migrating things from the old style settings to the new settings dialog box over the past couple of years. And one of the most noticeable and welcome ones here is a sort of consolidation of the settings that are there for your network connection, so that you can look at how much data you've used. You can look at your network adapter properties, your IP address, all from a single status page, instead of having to jump all over through settings to find those things. There's improvements in notifications, which are pretty neat. You can just right-click on a notification and say, I don't really want to see notifications from this program anymore. If you use the virtual desktop feature to organize windows so that you can switch between groups of windows instead of having everything on the same desktop, you can rename those virtual desktops. And last but not least, there's an option now for when you restart, and whether that's to install some updates or just because you're having some stability issues, you can tell Windows 10 that when you restart, you want it to open the same programs and files that you currently have open, so that after your restart, you can get right back to work right where you were. And that feature now covers not just desktop programs like Microsoft Office, but also the new Universal Windows programs like Calendar and Mail and things like that. So that's what people can expect from Windows 10 version 2004, coming soon to PC very near you.
Excellent. All right, Ed. Well, you were always a joy to talk to. Lots of great information for us, as always. And as Ed mentioned, if you want to learn more about Windows 10 version 2004, everything you need to know, check it out in his article there on ZDNet. Thanks for watching. Hi, everybody.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Microsoft is rolling out the Windows 10 May 2020 update this month, bringing new features to help with productivity, security, and speed. The update, also known as Windows 10 versions 2004, and other places it'll be known as 20H1, which means it's from the first half of the year, and formally referred to as April 2020 update. It's expected to start rolling out to mainstream users on May 28th, which is just a couple of weeks away. For those in the Windows Insider program, the May 2020 update has been available as a preview release for about a year. The final version is expected to roll out to developers on May 12th, which is just a couple of days away, and to mainstream users on the 28th. The version number is 2004. Will take only minutes to install and includes useful new features. And there is a number of changes for users according to Microsoft, such as Cortana. I don't use Cortana, but Microsoft says Cortana is evolving into a personal productivity assistant that can help you use Microsoft 365 apps. Cortana will be undocked from the taskbar, so you can move or resize it like any other app. An improved email feature lets you use Cortana to create emails. For example, you can say, send an email to Mary, letting her know that I'm running late, or show me emails from Jeff. An improved calendar lets you do the same to create and ask about meetings. And Windows lets you use the assistant to open apps and adjust settings like brightness. Cortana, Microsoft's, becomes a native application that can be updated more frequently or less frequently via the Microsoft Store. Fixes and enhancements are no longer tied to the operating system updates. So there won't be updates for Cortana in your normal update cycle. It's going to be just like any other app would be updated. Another change or update will be Search Home, access for quick searches to your search home for easier access. So you're going to be able to search weather, top news, today in history, and new movies. I see some chat items. Let me, where'd they go? Let's take a look and see if there's anything here that, well, I can't see them. Okay, we'll stay in this, and then I'll come back to those. K-O-Moji, Microsoft adds K-O-Moji, and there's an example of one on your screen, to its keyboard shortcuts along with other emoji. Here's some examples I think that are going to be included. I don't use a lot of these, but every once in a while I like to use the colon with the D or semicolon and a P and some of those, but there's going to be some new ones as well. Virtual desktops. You can rename your virtual desktop. A lot of you probably don't use them, but especially if you got multiple screens, if you have virtual desktops, you can have, it's like having multiple screens all on one screen. But it's been that it would be labeled desktop 1, desktop 2. Now you can actually put a name to them. Automatically open apps. You can opt into a setting to automatically open universal Windows platform apps after you restart your machine. Edbot referred to that. So if you restart your machine, some of the apps that you had open will open up again, so you'll be right back where you were when you did a restart. The Bluetooth pairing devices with your machine will occur through notifications, so you won't need to go into the settings app to finish pairing. So it'll make it easier to pair with, say, a Bluetooth speaker or a Bluetooth headset or earpieces and so on. If you have a tablet, especially the 2-in-1 convertible PCs, it's going to be available in beta for Windows Insiders. When you detach your 2-in-1 keyboard, you'll still keep the familiar look of your desktop without interruption, while still optimizing the screen for touch. And Edbot mentioned this, the CPU temperature. This important system information will now show up in Task Manager. If your system supports it, Task Manager will also list whether drives are solid state or hard disk. In Task Manager, you can now see the GPU, your graphics processor unit temperature for discrete graphics cards without having to install a third-party utility. Likewise, the Performance tab now shows the disk type, whether it's a solid state drive, a USB drive, and so on for storage devices. There's also going to be some changes in choosing the default apps by type. I couldn't find any more information about that, only the fact that it's going to be easier to set your default apps. There are also, of course, lots of other small fixes and enhancements in the Win 10 2004. For example, the current version of Windows 10 lets you control update downloads by percentage of bandwidth via deliver optimization / advanced options. Version 2004 will add the ability to set a specific megabits per second limit. I'm not sure how it's going to do that and whether that's going to be of importance to most of us, but we'll have to see when it comes out later this month. Microsoft will end support for Windows 10 1809, Home, Pro, Pro Education, and Pro for Workstations editions in November of this year, just a few months away. Enterprise and Education editions will support will last until May of next year. You can still use version 1809, but the loss of Microsoft support means you will no longer get important security patches and other updates. So now, no longer is it just Windows 7 that's going away, but Windows 10 1809 will be also going away later this year. Updates and security updates. Now, do I have to update to the May 2020 version? And Microsoft says no. They recommend that you update, of course, but it's not mandatory. Unless you're about to hit an end of service date for the version you're currently running. If so, then you certainly want to do the update. Windows 10 is now on more than 1 billion devices. Can you believe that? Worldwide. Microsoft said in just this past March. Now that support for Windows 7 is officially over, Microsoft is encouraging users to either upgrade their PC to Windows 10 to keep it running smoothly and securely, or to buy a new computer. Major refreshes to the operating system come about every 6 months, with the most recent being November of 2019. Repeat, this update will take anywhere from 7 to 17 minutes to install the new one that's coming later this month or sometime next month, depending on where you are in the cycle. So now is the time to review your current Windows setup. Check its overall health and ensure everything is fully updated. Also, and I didn't put this in here, but very important, back your system up now. Make sure all your files are backed up. If you have the ability to do an image backup, do an image backup, but also make sure that your data is updated and uploaded to some kind of a backup or saved to some kind of a backup as well, because you can always install programs, but what you can't do is get that data back. So when you do get around to installing Windows 10 2004, the process is more likely to go smoothly. So the bottom line is we're all dealing with a major disruption in our lives. Don't add to it by upgrading to the latest Windows 10 right away. For administrators only, Windows 10 users finally get the option that Mac users have had for years, beginning with this version, 2004. The reset this PC feature includes an option to download setup files from the cloud instead of using local installation files. So on systems with fast internet connections, this option should make the reset processor quicker and cleaner. And this is what it will look like. So how would you like to reinstall Windows? Do you want a cloud download or do you want a local reinstall? On devices that include Windows Hello biometric authentication, facial recognition, or fingerprint with the Microsoft account, administrators can remove the option to sign in with a password and allow signing in with only the biometric feature or a Windows Hello PIN. Note that a PIN can be longer than 4 characters and can include letters and symbols as well as numbers, making it effectively a local password that's never shared over the network. That Windows Hello PIN is also now usable in safe mode on a device that has been configured with a PIN for the primary administrator's account. You can use that PIN instead of the password to sign in after restarting in safe mode. Makes it easier to trying to figure out what that password is and make it easier to sign into the safe mode. Another virtualization-based feature in 2004 is the extension of the Windows Sandbox feature that made its debut in version 1903. A Windows Sandbox is simply a virtual machine that allows you to test software in a safe environment, isolated from your working environment. What the Sandbox is, it is a sandbox, a place to play. When you're done with it, it goes away and everything in it goes away. So beginning with the version in 2004, anyone who wants to fine-tune that default environment can do so by adding some configuration files. So when you start your Sandbox, you can have certain features start automatically as well. Otherwise, right now, if you use the Sandbox in the current versions of Windows 10, what happens is it's just a basic Windows 10. There's nothing there other than the operating system. And this was a diagram that I found about that, and I don't have the foggiest of what it all means. So if you use the virtual desktop feature, for example, you're no longer stuck with the system-issued names for those arrangements of the windows. Instead, you can change the dull defaults, desktop 1, desktop 2, and I had just mentioned that, to more meaningful names. Press the Windows key plus the tab, then click New Desktop and click the label above the desktop's thumbnail to change the name. This version continues the refinement of new settings page. So there's going to be a new settings page with a new home page for users who sign in with a Microsoft account, as well as a reworked network status page that consolidates information such as IP address and data usage into a single location instead of multiple subpages. It's going to look something more like this. So it's going to give you some more information. The new version also extends the option to automatically restore open apps after a restart. That capability, previously available only for desktop apps like those in Microsoft Office, is now available for UWP apps such as Mail and Calendar. In Windows settings, you click System and then About, and then scroll down the page to the Windows specifications section. And when you do, you'll see some information. It'll tell you what version you're running, what edition you're running, and when it was installed. This is a screen capture I picked up in one of the articles. I do not have 2004. The one I have is 1909. But that's how you find out what you're running. And that's it for this part of the discussion. So let me stop sharing for a moment and see. There were some chat questions. Let's see what we've got here. Mike said, I look forward to trying out the new Windows Sandbox configuration options. As an end user, each time Sandbox is opened, you're starting from scratch. I'd like to configure it and then have it open that way each time I activate it. And that's exactly what you're going to be able to do. If you've never used it, it's fun to play with. What it gives you is just a basic Windows window. And then when you close it, everything just goes away. So you can test stuff, you can insert, you can install some programs and try them and then have it go away. And it's like you never installed it. Ron Brown says, I don't know anyone that uses Cortana. I don't either. If you use Cortana, if you'll click on the participants page or button down at the bottom if you're running Windows, click participants, and at the bottom of that there should be some things that you can click. Type in yes, or just click the yes button if you're using Cortana for anything. Do we have anybody? I don't see anybody typing yes or clicking yes. They either haven't found it, and it's at the bottom of the participants list. There are some choices. Just click yes, and no one, one person. Interesting. So there's no one here that's running it. Judy says a couple members in her user group use it. And some other people said, let's see, Andrew said, I tried to get Windows Sandbox, but it said it was only for the professional version. I think that is true. I think you have to have the pro version to do the Sandbox. So he is correct there. Okay, let's see. Whoever clicked on yes, if you'll click it again, it'll turn it off. Okay, thank you. So let's, any other questions about this before I go on to the next topic? You're welcome to unmute yourself and ask or type it in. Okay, hearing nothing, let's go to the next.
If you want to see what the new task manager looks like, I'd be happy to share mine.
Okay, I have to make you a co-host, so you'll be able to share your screen. Okay, there's the new task manager. If you can full screen that. Good. Okay, so you show the different disks. Let's see, where is the temperature? There's utilization, the speed. Go to the GPU 0, I think, or GPU 1. GPU 0, yeah, right there. Does it show the temperature? You may not have a temperature on the GPU, but it does show you how much you're using it. And so there's lots of information about that. And your disk drive, you got a USB and SSD drive, and it tells you that what each one is. It's an SSD. Okay, very good.
Huey, the GPU 0 is the built-in motherboard GPU. The GPU 1 is the add-on board, NVIDIA.
Okay, and it doesn't even appear that it's being used. You're not using enough, I guess, to use it. Let's see if there's any temperature with it. Go back to the GPU 1. I don't see the temperature on there. So yours may not have the ability to do that. That's interesting. Okay, thank you, Bob. And if you'll unshare. Okay, before you do unshare, let's take a look at that. You're running 2004. So you have been doing the testing. Oh, the picture that you're showing is Stug in Sarasota as well when you appeared there in January. Okay, you can go ahead and unshare. And let's see, no other messages or anything. So let's go ahead and, yes, Tony, you're muted. We're not hearing you. You're unmuted, but I'm not hearing you. No, we're still not hearing you. Nope, I'm sorry. So let's, I'm going to share my screen while Tony kind of figure out either he can type in his question in the chat box or maybe fix his problem. I'm going to go back to the screen and share and go to my next item, which is going to be here. Not this one. This one I think we'll talk about next. How to show File Explorer's preview pane in Windows 10. It's easy to preview files without opening them in Windows 10 thanks to the preview pane feature in File Explorer. File Explorer, if you remember, is the file manager that we have built in Windows 10. You can see thumbnails of most images, videos, audio files, and some text-based documents. And here's how to turn it on. You may have heard about a security flaw involving this preview pane, but that was fixed in Windows 10 with an update released on April 14th, just a month ago. So if you haven't done the latest, then you may not want to do this. But if you're up to date and you do have updates since April and have the update for that, first you open up File Explorer. To do so, press the Windows plus the E key or click the folder icon on your taskbar. It'll look like that. I have in my taskbar this PC, and when I open it, it is at that point File Explorer. In the menu bar at the top of File Explorer, click View, and when you do, go to the View. You click View. Find the preview pane in the upper left region and click on it. And it'll be right here, preview pane. There's also a details pane. And then, of course, the navigation pane is the way I normally have mine. Now, the preview pane you can turn on and off by clicking this. So if you're not sure how to turn, if you turn it on and you don't want it, just go back and click it again, and it'll turn it off. And I'm going to demonstrate that when we're done with this article. The preview pane is now activated. Navigate File Explorer to a folder that has documents you'd like to preview. When you select a file, you'll see its preview thumbnail at the right. And let's take a look at what we're talking about. It's going to look like something like this. And again, I'm going to demonstrate from my computer here in just a moment. File Explorer also has a related feature called Details Pane, and I'll show you that. And what it'll look like will be something like this. You click on the Details pane, and when you highlight a file with the Details pane turned on, you'll see a tiny thumbnail for applicable file times and some details about the file, such as the size. So you'll see a bunch of information over here about that particular file. Keyboard shortcut for viewing the preview and details panes. So to open and close the preview pane, press Alt-P, and to open the details pane, Alt-Shift-P. So let's get out of this, minimize this, and we'll open up my, let's see, do I have a folder? Yeah, this PC. And let's go to the Documents folder. Come on. And let's just go to a folder for this meeting and today's date. I only have a few files in there. Let's full screen this. So we go to View, which is up here. When I click on it, you'll see over here, Navigation pane, Preview pane, and Details pane. If we click on the Previews pane, you will see now a section over here. So if I go to this Excel spreadsheet, when I just highlight it, well, let's turn this off, turn it on again. Should show us. Okay, there you go. You'll see a preview of that file. If I go to this one, no, I don't want to go to that one. Okay, let's go here. You'll see a preview of the JPEG. Here's a text file, and here is the PowerPoint. That one takes a little bit to load up, but it does show a screen over here as a preview. So let's turn off the preview pane. Let's turn on the details pane. Let's come over here to this picture, for instance. It shows when it was taken. You can see it's several years old. What I do is it's a PSD file, and I just update it, but the original was back in 2016. It shows the dimension, how big the file size is, who authored it, and maybe some other information about it. You can see it has a creation date, even though it originally was 2016 file, it's been updated and created, modified just 2 days ago. Same thing with the Excel spreadsheet. You'll see that I was the author. It was modified 2 days ago. And there's some other information about it. Data was created, data was accessed, content was created, and last saved, and last printed. So that's from the, this is currently, now don't forget, I have not updated to the latest version of Windows. I'm running the 1909 version. So this is already in Windows and already available. And then if you don't want the navigation pane, there's some things you can change. You can show your libraries. I don't use them, so I don't show them. You can show all the folders. You can expand to open a folder, and I allow that. And you can have the navigation pane as well. Oh, that's your file management program. If you're not utilizing that, now there's some other things in the view that you can have. You'll notice that I'm on large icons. I can have extra large icons that'll look like this to make it so if I want to look at the entire folder, I can have extra large icons, I can have large icons, I can have medium icons, I can have small icons. I can have it as a list. I can have it with details. Going back to the DOS days, it looks like that. But you'll notice up here with the names of the various columns, if you come up here, I can make this and make it wider so I can read the longer file names. And in the details, and then in tiles, it can look like this. And in content, it can look like this. So you can make this look whatever you want, and it's up to you. So when I work on other people's computers, a lot of times they don't know that it can be changed, but I don't like changing it on them because then it doesn't look like what they're used to, and they may not like it. So if you're helping somebody else with their computer, they don't necessarily need to have it the same way that you have it. I like the details view for a lot of the things I do because I can not only make this larger and see all of it, but I can sort. If I want by sort, I can have the last one at the top and the oldest one at the bottom, or reverse it. Now, the oldest one is at the top and the newest one is at the bottom. I can put all the types together, so the Excels are together, the text documents are together. And if I want to do it by size, the largest one is at the top, the smaller one at the bottom, or reverse those. Okay, and there are also some options that you can change. You can add columns. So you can have date created, date modified, date taken, dimensions, ratings. You can choose some other columns and so on. There's some different ways you can make this appear your own for your own usage. I like to have it sort by name, so it finds it. I can find them easier. Okay. So let's stop the share. Any questions or comments on that? You can unmute yourself, or you're welcome to type in the chat box. And can you have multiple panes selected? Not sure what you mean, but let's see if, let me show you what I do. So I think what you mean is this. Okay, so let's say I'm here. Now, if I move up one, and you can move up one or just click this up arrow to move up one. But let's go back into documents. Let's go back into the WinSig virtual. Now let me show you what I can do. I can right mouse click on this one and I'll open it as a new window. I think this is what you meant. So now I can have one over here and one here. And I might want to say, okay, captures for the WinSig. So let's open that in another window. And it doesn't have to be in the same folder. It can be anywhere on your computer. It's loading up that. And then I can take any one of these and say, okay, I want to make a copy of this one, this file here, and I want it over here. All I have to do, I'm going to right mouse click. And when I right mouse click, it comes up with a menu, a pop-up menu. And you'll notice it move here is in bold. That means if I left mouse clicked it and dragged it, that's what it would do. But if you right mouse click, you'll have some choices. And if I just say copy here, it's going to make a copy, put a copy there, and that's up here and it's still down here. If I had left mouse clicked it and moved it here, it would no longer be in this folder, but it would be in this one. And I do this a lot. I'll have several panes open so I can go back and forth. It just makes it easier. I don't like clicking on something saying copy it, then bring it over here and then say pasting. To me, that's a long way around. I'd rather have two file manager windows open and just drag it either with my right mouse click or my left mouse click. And I think that's what you meant. When you said, Ron said, can you have multiple panes selected? Okay, any other questions, comments, or I'll go on to the next item. How are we doing in time? 2:19. Yes, Tony, do we have a microphone? Nope. Tony, if you go down to your microphone on your menu in the bottom left, there's an up arrow. Make sure you got the right microphone selected. No, we're not hearing you.
Any luck there?
Now we hear you.
Okay. To your oh, that was a very good thing on that multiple pane thing. I fumbled around for years wishing I had that. Like in the old days, you had DOS program that used to have like multi-window thing. Anyway, when I recently had to do a recover of my operating system. I had a machine that I got from someone. It had a demo mode on it, which I finally found out how to remove, but the USB was not working, and it was a USB-C, and that was the only USB port. I needed an adapter for other things, and it wouldn't work. After trying a number of diagnostics, I said, I'm gonna have to reload. So I went to recover and I thought it was going to go back to 1803, which is what it came with. I had recently upgraded, not recently, I had previously updated to up as far as 1909. So I did this recover, I did the restore, and I saved files, although what programs disappeared. But what surprised me was it came back to 1909, like the 2004 is supposed to do. So I don't know if that's always been the way. I was expecting it was going to reload something from a hidden partition. I'd have to start over again. But somehow I had 1909 again. So I was happy to see that. And I don't know if that's an update or what.
Bob G, you're shaking your head. You have a comment on that?
That's okay. Well, no.
Judy, I just muted you so we don't listen to your phone call. Okay, Bob, you're muted.
Well,
okay, there you go.
When you do a recover, you do get your current version, only it's repaired. Okay, you're not going back to an older version. You're going back to the same one, but you're repairing that version.
Where does the new version come, or the corrected version come from? Does it come from the cloud?
It will now, if you select it. On the old one, it came from something that Windows had stored on your computer.
I see. Yes, I know the Macs had that feature for some time, and I have used it on a Mac to fix some Macs, and I was wishing we had that, but now I guess my wishes come true.
Well, that's good. That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me go back to sharing my screen. And go ahead and close these all out. I'll minimize them just in case I need them quickly. And come back here. And the next item I was going to talk about was introducing Microsoft 365, but I think I'm going to, no, this one. Let's go ahead and talk about this. I looked at this morning to make sure that's something I wanted to cover. And I did want to talk about OneDrive a little bit, because a lot of you don't use OneDrive. It comes up and it keeps saying you're not signed in and you're not using it. And if you're not using OneDrive, you really should, especially if you are an Office subscriber. You get a terabyte of space for your account, or you probably do. But OneDrive, and I think you get 15 gigabytes to start, and you can buy more space. OneDrive gets differential sync support for all users. Now, what does that all mean? Well, Microsoft OneDrive is getting a massive new feature for all users, differential sync. If that doesn't make a lot of sense to you, let Paul Thurrott's going to explain about it. When you modify and update a file on a service like OneDrive, it would usually upload the entire file to sync the new changes. It's not a big problem for small files, but it can be quite time-consuming and use a lot of bandwidth when you're making tiny changes to a large file that leads to the entire file being uploaded every time. For instance, if you're working on a very large PowerPoint and you make a change in some wording in one slide and it has to upload the whole thing again, it can be very time-consuming if you got a lot of videos and stuff and it's a very large file. So with differential sync, OneDrive will only upload the parts of the file that changed. So instead of the entire file being uploaded every time you make a change to it, OneDrive is only going to upload parts of the file that have changed. This obviously is much more sensible as it will save bandwidth and time. OneDrive actually has had differential sync for some time and users in the past, but the rollout has been quite staggered. This week, Microsoft quietly announced that differential sync is now enabled for all users and file types. More specifically, according to Microsoft 365 roadmap, it looks like Microsoft has completed rolling out differential sync support for all file types for its business customers this week. In case you're wondering, Dropbox seems to also support differential sync, but as far as he is aware, Google Drive doesn't seem to support this feature. Okay, so let's stop sharing here for a moment. Let's see, or did I, hang on one second. Let me get out of this. Come on. And see if there was, I had another article. Yeah, a little bit about OneDrive. I don't know how many of you use OneDrive, and I'm not going to go through this entire cheat sheet. It's fairly long, and I've got to add it to the web page, a link to it, because I don't believe I do. But the Microsoft's cloud storage service, OneDrive, can back up your personal and work files online. It's built into Windows 10. With it, you can sync files on your Windows 10 machine to the cloud and to your other Windows PCs. What I like about it is I can store files from my PC either to OneDrive or to my Google Drive and have access to them from my Chromebook or from my Android phone. And I'm using, so I'm able to get to OneDrive files and Google Drive files from any device. Let's see, smartphone. It can even sync your cloud files to your Mac if you have a Mac, as well as a PC. It's handy for collaboration too. You can share files in your OneDrive with anyone by sending them a web link. If your file is a Microsoft Office file, such as a PowerPoint presentation, they'll be able to collaborate on it using a free PowerPoint online web app or the corresponding Office desktop app. The same is true with the Word documents and Excel spreadsheets. Although collaboration via Excel desktop client is limited to Office 365 subscribers. Whether your collaborators have the Office desktop apps or not, they can always collaborate in Excel online, Word online, and PowerPoint online. So, and I'm not going to go through the rest of this article because it talks about getting started. But if you don't know much about File Explorer and using your OneDrive through it, you want to take a look at this article, and I will get the link to it online after the meeting. But what I want to do is go ahead and stop share, and let's take again a look at, I'm going to click on this PC. So I got to go back. Let's see, anything else? Diane says, I use OneDrive, especially for 44-page newsletter I do for the community. And somebody else had me do some video editing for them. and the files were very big, and I had no way of getting the files to her. And what I did is I posted them in my OneDrive, made a link to share, sent her the link, and she was able to download them directly from my OneDrive. So let me get on this. Come on. We'll just close this, minimize this, and let's go ahead and again bring up this PC. We'll full screen it so there's nothing else on the screen. You can see over here on the left, there I've got some quick access, but I have my desktop, and then I have Dropbox, I have OneDrive, and then I have this PC down here at the bottom. So if I take something from, let's say, my data disk again, and again we'll go to my documents, and we'll go to the CFCS WinSig for this meeting and find the one for today. Okay, so I have some files there. Now I also have files in my OneDrive. And let's say I want to put something in my OneDrive. Let's see, CFCS, where are we here? Windows. So I am going to click this little arrow over here. It'll show me the folders I have. And so I am going to make a folder. I'm going to right mouse click here and tell it to new, come on mouse, and folder. I'm going to call it test CFCS. And I am going to take the PowerPoint, and I am going to right mouse click and carry it over to test CFCS. Notice it's highlighted here is the copy here. So if I just did this with my left mouse button, it would have automatically just copied it. Why is it copy in one place and move in another, you might ask? It's move if it's on the same drive. If it's on a different drive, it'll only copy by default. But you can make it move just by right mouse clicking and then clicking here. But we're just going to copy it. So now we've got that copied over to my OneDrive. Now I'm going to go to OneDrive, click on that folder, and there it is. So it's already there. Notice this little mark here. That means it's uploading it to the cloud. It moved it into my local OneDrive folder, but it hasn't put it out on the cloud yet till this is completed. And it'll take a minute or two. And if you got a lot of files, it can take a little while. And then you just wait for it to finish. So let's wait for it to finish. And if it doesn't do it really, there, it's done now. And now it's got a check mark, means it's there. It's out on the cloud. I'm looking at the local version of OneDrive, but it's there. Now I can also free up space. I can say, okay, I only want it on the cloud, and if I need to look at it again, it'll download it for me. And there is a way to do that. And what we're going, I think that's the free up. I knew I should have looked this up first. But I think it is free up space. Let's see what it does if that's it. When it's done, now you'll only see a cloud there. That means it's available on the cloud. Let me move the mouse so it went online. So if I go to the online version of OneDrive, I can see that file. but it's not taking up space on my hard drive any longer in that folder. And if I need to open it, when I double click it, it actually downloads it back to the hard drive. So you can save space by storing things in your OneDrive, but having that listed in your files on your hard drive. If that's confusing, I apologize. I may not be saying it right. Hopefully you get the idea. So with that, I am going to stop share and see if there's some discussion or some questions about using OneDrive. Judy, you have a question.
Yes, your pertinent question when my HP died was, do you have another computer? And I said yes, but the presentation's on the one that's dying. Everything is trying to make its way to OneDrive. It took 21 hours for the folders to appear. And with that came the miscellaneous files that were not in the folders. Is it going to take forever for me to actually get 34,000 documents from my hard drive up to OneDrive, and I not panic that I'm never going to be able to get the documents off the crummy machine, because I can't do a clear backup with it either?
It's going to take a while. It depends upon your bandwidth, and your bandwidth as far as uploading
going up
goes.
Sucks big time.
Well, then yeah, it's going to take a long time.
Okay, because I've been working with Bill on this, and it was hysterical because, you know, middle of the night for him, and we're working with it, and we can't figure it out. And I went out and I went back in, and all of a sudden they popped up, and there they were. So I called him and said, please stop laughing, but the folders are up there. Okay.
My camera just fell against the wall here.
Because it did, yep, it did light a fire under me to start using OneDrive. So
okay.
I appreciate what you've done today. And I also appreciate your other demo on the Explorer, because that will be part of my meeting Monday night, because I've been kind of, you know, what am I going to do extra? And I appreciate that, and I'll be doing it. And I'm off to my Mother's Day celebration because it is not quite noon here in Southern California. This is my first meeting, and always with you. See, I'm usually in church now. I learned a ton and a half. Thank you so much.
Before you go, I sent you an email asking you if I could publicize.
I said yes.
Okay, I will do so then. Okay, and before I sign off today, thank you
so much.
Yep, thank you. I just had my camera and my light just fell over, and so that's where I went when I disappeared from the picture here. And so I was going to make a point. Now I forgot what the point was, because it. Let's see, what was I going to show you?
Would you call that a lap dance?
Yeah, worse than that, I think. I know we were talking about OneDrive, but I lost my train of thought trying to recover, making sure the light didn't fall on the floor and lose a $40 light bulb, but it didn't. It's on a tripod, and that tripod fell over, and that took the camera with it. But we're back. Any questions about, let's see, Ron Brown said, if you use Microsoft 365, you get 1 terabyte of OneDrive storage, which is a very good deal. And if you buy the 5 licenses, you can spread them around to all your friends. Not all your friends. Yeah, I hope you have more than 4 friends. But you can share it with 4 other people. And so each of you have one of the accounts, and each of you gets 1 terabyte, and it's for $99 a year. So it's $20 a person a year to have a complete Office 365 with 1 terabyte of storage in your OneDrive. And the neat thing about OneDrive is the fact that you can store things out there, and you don't have to store them on your hard drive, and then get them back as you need them. So if you're not using it, and all you need is your Microsoft account, sign in to set up your OneDrive. So if you keep getting a pop-up that says you haven't set up OneDrive yet, do so. Bob G.
I had one club, they had just gotten a new projector in, And for some reason, my system would not hook up to that projector, no matter what we tried. End result was that I finally went online to OneDrive, and since my files always are in sync, I was able to do my presentation using the internet on OneDrive, and we had a good afternoon. It would have turned out to be a total failure since I couldn't hook up to their projector.
Right. When I'm doing a presentation at a location, what I try to do is put a copy of the presentation on my OneDrive, on my Google Drive, on a thumb drive, and then on the computer I'm using, because it's sure is shooting is something's not going to work somewheres. And if you're covered, at least you have it. And let's see, Roberta says Carbonite gives about 10 past versions of a file. What about OneDrive? No, OneDrive just what you got, what's there is what's there. Carbonite says they won't back up OneDrive files. Any thoughts on getting previous versions in case an error or loss of current file version? I don't know. Just save. A lot of times when I'm doing a PowerPoint, for instance, I'll have a V1, a V2, a V3, or I'll just put an ABC or something after the title, and I maintain my own versions on my own drives. And I do the same thing when I edit photos. I never edit the original. I make a copy of it. I put an A next to it or a B next to it, whatever the file name is, or I rename it something else, and I edit that, and then I'll make maybe 2 or 3 different, as I make different edits, I save it with different names. So, and then a lot of times I'll make a new folder under the folder with all of the pictures from an occasion. Let's say I go and I take a bunch of pictures. I'll copy all of those pictures into a subfolder, call it edit, and then I'll make a copy of all of them. And so all those that I edit, I can work on, I can delete whatever I want, but all of the originals are still in the original folder. And then I'll make another folder and call it use, and I'll copy all the ones I've edited over to use, and then delete the ones I don't want to use for either Facebook or for a folder or to share with somebody and so on. So having some of the programs, and I've seen people talk about and looking for programs that will delete duplicates of files. I don't want a program like that because I've got the same names of programs all over the place. Dave Williams, you've got a question or comment?
No, I went and looked it up, and OneDrive will version certain types of files, and they're looking to version more. It's a right click and go down to version.
Okay, there you go, Roberta.
Did that answer her question?
I think it did, and I'll have to take a look at that myself.
I just looked up OneDrive versioning.
I think you'll find it under properties. If you look at properties of a file on OneDrive, you'll find a tab that says previous versions. And if there are previous versions, they'll show up.
I'd like to comment on another possible use for OneDrive and or Google Drive. Some years ago, I ran into a dilemma because I've got 3 nieces and 3 daughters and 6 grandkids, and we had 1 copy of the picture. So fortunately, all of these people that I just mentioned are online and have Google, in this case, have Google accounts. And so what I had them do is create a folder in Google Drive called Family Photos and share it with me. And I was able to load copies of that 1 picture to each one of those family members. So it also has another good storage possibility there. You can do the same thing with OneDrive as well.
You can do it with OneDrive, any of those drives, absolutely. Ron says, can you or Bob talk about OneDrive security that allows you to password certain files or directories? I've not done it, but I have seen where it's supposed to be fairly secure. Bob, do you know anything about it? Bob G?
I also haven't done it.
And let's see, somebody else says, do you give up privacy by putting files on OneDrive? I don't believe so, but you can share individual files. You can share individual folders, with certain people. You can say only these people and give the addresses, and then they have to sign in with that address, I believe, or they have to have a Microsoft account, or you can get a link and then give that link to anyone and share it that way. So that definitely would make it less secure. Dave Williams.
Okay, I have occasionally, not on a great deal, have password protected a file. Usually it's an Excel spreadsheet. And what I'll do is either share it or send it, and then send the password in a separate email so they can get into it. And it was just a secure document. I've seen it done on the internet, you know, that they, you know, share a file and then they'll send an email out to open that file. Just added security.
Okay, any other comments? Let's see.
That's good to know. I would like to send some personal stuff to my cousin as an executor. So I was trying to figure out how to share with an executor.
Yeah, let's see. Can you have a local non-OneDrive file plus a OneDrive file? Will they both update? If you maintain it on your hard drive, it automatically will upload to your OneDrive on the cloud. And then you get those little circles, and then when that goes away, that means it's on both. But let me show you just very quickly.
You'll also go the other way around, Huey.
Yeah, but let me share my screen one more time, and then we're going to call it a day. And we've got this one file out on OneDrive. Come on. Oh, I'm in the wrong place. There we go. So if we go out to OneDrive, I think that's where we are. If I right mouse click and give access to specific people, but there should be a way to test drive. I may have to go into OneDrive itself. I don't know whether I can do it from here. Give access to, send to, remove access. I may have to go into OneDrive itself and then share it. Let's try it from here. Yeah, this is just give access to, but not share. I guess you have to actually go into OneDrive. And then when you go into OneDrive, then you right mouse click and there'll be a share, and it'll actually give you a link if you want it, and you can copy that link and then give it out. As I said, I had a bunch of videos that needed to be edited that someone gave me, had me do that, and then for me to get them back to her, I posted them on OneDrive, gave her a link, and she was able to download all of them. When I say it was like 2 or 3 gigabytes of files, you certainly can't email that. And there's no other place. There aren't a lot of places you can do that sort of thing with and post it.
Huey?
Yes.
Huey, what I was talking about, I couldn't remember it, but I just looked it up and I posted the link in the chat. OneDrive lets you create a personal vault. This is and you can actually set it up with 2-factor authentication. And these are files that you can take and you can actually put them into your personal vault, and they will be, you need 2-factor authentication to get into it. Plus, the other issue is if you ever did get a virus and it was encrypting, encrypting your hard drive, it would also encrypt, if it was connected to the internet, it would encrypt OneDrive. However, if it's in your personal vault, it will not. And this is a new feature that Windows just added, OneDrive just added about, oh, I don't know, this last year. I haven't set, Bob, have you ever set up the personal vault?
No, did not.
And I haven't either.
But I put the link in the chat there, and this is a really cool feature. We should talk about this one day.
Yeah, that would be a good topic. Yes.
I'm set up.
In fact, the OneDrive was an add-on that I hadn't planned on talking about today, but just this past week I've had a few people make comments about they've been getting pop-ups asking them to set up their OneDrive and they didn't know what it was. So I thought, well, this might be a good place to talk about it. And then Roberta also asked, does Google Drive have the same share and password feature? I know it does have the share feature, although there are some times it's a little more difficult to share from Google Drive, and I don't remember why, but it was easier for me to do it on OneDrive than it was Google Drive. It could be because I have more space.
Well, it said OneDrive, you have two types of sharing. You can share, like, I don't remember exactly who this said was, shared with the grandkids. So you're sharing it to somebody's shared drive. It's like what we do in APCUG, or you share the link to somebody else who can download it. If you share it to their OneDrive account, it comes in the shared file, and they have to have a Google account to get to it. If you share it to them just as a link, you email it to them, they just click on the link, and they have the ability to access whatever you gave them the link to.
You said OneDrive, you meant Google Drive, correct?
Google Drive, I'm sorry.
Okay. Just for somebody who doesn't, is trying to figure this all out now. We don't want to confuse them more.
Yeah, I'm already confused, so.
The personal drive, or the personal vault in OneDrive, is that you can only put 3 files in it unless you buy some extra space. So it's a way they try to get you to buy more space.
Is that true if you have the 1 terabyte of space through your Office 365 as well?
Yeah, I think that if you have the space through your 365, then you can put as much as you want in the vault. Those of us who don't do that, I found out the other day, you can put as many files in there as you want as long as you put them into one zip file. So if you create a zip file and put it in your personal vault, it can have 1,000 files in it. It doesn't matter. So
yeah,
they only count the files as one file, even though it's a zip file that has a lot of files in it.
Yeah, I was going to cover on how to make a zip file in this meeting, and I didn't add it to the list because I didn't think we'd have time for it, and I would have been correct. But I wonder if that's something that some people might want me to add to one of these meetings to talk about zip files. We used to do a lot of it back in the bulletin board days because that was the only way you could really send anything and keep it together and try to keep the size down as well because it did compress the files. But a lot of us don't do as much of it anymore, but it's a great way to keep things together in one package. And so maybe I will talk about that if I remember, I'll do it next month.
If you use Google Drive and download a folder, it will zip the folder.
Yeah, same thing as if you try to download multiple pictures from Google Photos, it zips them together as well. If it's one photo, you'll get the one photo, but if you want more than one photo, it's going to be in a zip file and you have to unzip them.
The best thing to use for anything for compression is 7-zip.
Absolutely, it's free and it works. Roberta, question?
Yeah, my cousin does not have 365. So he only has 5 gigabytes for one drive. So I have the 365. Would he be able to open a vault file that I send him, a personal vault? If it was bigger than the 5 gigs?
If the personal vault is for your use and you have to have a password for it, I don't know whether I'd want to do that, but if you want, you can share a folder on yours and she can download it to her hard drive. She doesn't need to have.
Set up a will and things like that and have it available.
If you took all those files, created a password protected zip compressed file, then you can send them a link to that file to download and provide them with the password in a different email. That's about as secure as I can think you can make something.
Okay.
And she doesn't have to have OneDrive for you to send her a OneDrive file.
Oh, okay. That's what that was basically.
Because she's linking to your OneDrive file, not hers.
Okay, that was basically my question. Because he said that he kept getting over the 5 gigabytes, so he took the whole OneDrive out. He got mad. All right, thank you.
And the space, the extra space is not expensive. I know with Google Drive, I bought, I think I have a terabyte. It may not be a terabyte, it might be 500 gigabytes, but it's more than enough, and I pay, I think, $25 a year for the extra space. So space on space in the cloud is not expensive. It's
Get
just
100 gig for $2.12, including tax.
A year or a month?
It's per month.
Okay, so it's 25 bucks a year. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let me do one more share. And say that this has been the Central Florida Computer Society Windows Special Interest Group for Sunday, May 10th, 2020. We had some great discussions. We've had some interesting information. For those of you who are online, if you want to stay online, the Central Florida Computer Society is going to continue. Their main meeting is just going to be a Q&A where you're welcome to stay on, whether you're a member of the group or not. And thank you for joining us today, and hope to see you next month. Be safe, be healthy, and don't get COVID-19. And on that note, I will stop the recording.